I live in a big city on the equator that imports a lot of our produce. Food is at the heart of Singapore's culture, but it's easy to lose track of where our food comes from because takeout is just so convenient. I'm trying to reconnect with the heart of my culture through my garden and my home. Welcome to my high rise homestead. Leafy greens are some of the fastest and easiest crops to grow in a high-rise urban farm. They require relatively little space and make up a big part of the Singaporean Chinese diet. I keep a long shallow trough dedicated to leafy greens, and I'm also exploring layering crops to better utilize what space I have. My thyme is ready to harvest, and I want to use the seeds distributed by NParks earlier this year to start growing kangkong instead. I harvest the thyme by cutting it at the base and leaving behind the roots and damaged leaves. Of course, no harvest is complete without feasting, so I stir-fried my thyme harvest with garlic and a little salt, one of the quickest and most foolproof ways to cook any kind of Chinese leafy vegetable. Now that the food is out of the way, it's time to freshen up my soil. I grow green onions among my leafy greens to keep pests away, and it's working so far, so I'm going to keep those in with the kangkong. One of the biggest contributors to a successful and productive urban farm is the cultivation of the soil. A traditional farm environment is a very open system where animals, microbes, and other important decomposers are free to move around, distributing nutrients among the various crops as they go, creating a fairly well-mixed underground biome. In an urban container garden, we are working with multiple relatively closed systems. Each pot of soil contains its own ecosystem. Some of my pots contain rich, loamy soil with lots of organic matter. Others contain mostly sand and clay and are poor in nutrients. The easiest and fastest way to ensure that crops get the nutrients they need is to use liquid fertilizers, which are very quickly taken up by the plant but leave nutrient-poor soil as it is without any adjustment to the microbiome or biodiversity in the pot. Replenishing the soil is a much more tedious process, adding organic matter into the mix a little bit at a time and letting it break down slowly. One big benefit of replenishing the soil this way is that it easily uses up food scraps and other garden waste. I've returned all the dry leaves and roots from the previous crop back to the soil and added other fruit and vegetable waste, like scraps from my kitchen scrap broth and fruit that was used in kombucha flavoring. I make sure to bury the food waste to avoid fruit flies and other pests, and ensure that as much of the nutrients end up in the soil and not just escaping into the atmosphere. Finally, I replant my green onions, sow the new crop, and give the whole planter a good water. Of course, we can't talk about soil health without mentioning the gardener's best friend, earthworms. It's just finished raining, so I'm down at the field trying to catch some earthworms for the garden. It's not the first time that I've topped up the garden with earthworms caught from the field, but the survival rate seems low at best. So here's hoping that some of the new friends I catch today will survive. So I don't know if it's just my luck, or the time of day, or maybe the field getting overgrown during lockdown has changed the wormy hangout spots. But today I caught a grand total of 1 earthworm. But she seems like a feisty one, so best case scenario, she survives, she has lots of babies, the old man running around the jogging track does not judge me at all. Worst case scenario, I get judged, earthworm dies, it's fine, its body will break down and feed the plants anyway, so this is fine. Be free. It may seem like a lot of effort for something that stays underground and that we will never truly see, but healthy soil nurtures healthy plants, and healthy plants flower better, have more energy to produce bigger fruits, and are less susceptible to pests. And of course, what is a crop turnover without a harvest? Here's to healthy soil and bountiful harvests.